All right, and we now welcome on David Shepard to The Last Resort. You can follow David at The Good Shepherd, SHEPARD_ on Twitter. David, how are we tonight?
I'm doing good, Spen and Brandon. Thanks for having me. You know, someone took the Good Shepherd, so I had to put the underscore in. I'm still not happy about that.
For those who don't know, David is a national sports writer for CBS Sports Radio. He's also a producer for Sirius XM NBA, and we're very delighted to have him on the podcast tonight to talk basketball.
Yep. Good to have you here, David. We're going to kick things off with some news that dropped earlier today, and that is that the Timberwolves owner, Glenn Taylor, is exploring possibly moving on, and somebody who is interested in coming aboard and becoming part of an ownership team would be Kevin Garnett, which is interesting because he and Taylor have had a checkered relationship, to say the least. So what are your thoughts on Garnett possibly mending that fence and owning the team one day?
Are we going age first or beauty first?
We'll kick things off with you, David.
Okay. So for me, that's an old joke, by the way. Thanks for humoring me, guys.
I like that.
Yeah, it's all right. So for me, this is an instance where, you know, Glenn Taylor has not done well without Kevin Garnett. He has done well with Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett is Minnesota Timberwolves. So when you have a guy like Glenn Taylor who's good at making money, but he ain't good at winning basketball games, that you contribute and attribute, I should say, to Kevin Garnett. Remember, guys, they began, I want to say, was it 89? Does that sound about right? 88, 89? Or kind of similar to when the Magic, when they were novices too. They didn't win. They didn't come close to winning. Garnett gets there. They go to the playoffs. They go to the playoffs again. They go to the playoffs again. Obviously, their best season was 03-04 when they made the conference finals, had the best record in the West. Kevin Garnett is the MVP. So, look, there's no question right now who looks good, who should be in that owner's box, and who should not be in that owner's box, and who has not been good.
Now, jumping off of that, and right before we get to Spence, I know he has a couple comments himself, I wanted to just address like the elephant in the room with these two, and that is that Garnett said that he would never do business with, quote, snakes. The snake in this case being Taylor. So, I mean, how does this look for KG if he goes back on his word? I mean, it's a power move to own an NBA team, but it's also a bit of a soft move to do business with someone you called a snake.
Well, you can do business with a snake as long as you're getting the better end of the deal. The guy loves basketball. He loves the franchise. He just doesn't like, I wouldn't even say love, he doesn't like, he has all kinds of disdain for Glenn Taylor. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of the NBA in that particular leadership role? We know what Kevin Garnett is. Kevin Garnett's one of the top 20 players to ever live. He's also a guy that has all those players here, even to this day, despite the fact that he has been out of the NBA for a few years. Let me ask you guys a question. Your dream is what? Right now, I know I've talked to Spencer a little bit about this. If you had your dream ideal job, what would that be?
Shoot, I mean, probably ESPN Radio.
Okay.
I would want to own a team. I'm with Kevin Garnett. Let me own an NBA team. That would be my dream job.
So wouldn't you do whatever, whenever, however, in order to attain said job?
Yeah, if someone wronged me in the past to the degree where I thought they were an awful human being, and then 10 years later I have the money to now buy them out, 100%.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
That's what I'm saying, Brandon. What's up with that question?
It's just there's the public comments around it. I mean, I guess I didn't think about the power move of taking it from Taylor, but I'm looking at sitting in that boardroom with Taylor and just forking over like just such a high percentage of your money to a guy that you hate so much. But I do see your point.
And by the way, guys, this is the only example in sports, because Michael Jordan's in his 50s, where the owner is better than half the team.
Honestly, yeah. I would kind of take KG against most of the roster. Maybe Karl-Anthony Towns, but outside of that.
Right. Yeah.
It's surprising to me that it's Garnett, though, who's the next former player to purchase a team. I would have thought a Shaquille O'Neal or someone along those lines would have purchased a team before Shaq. I'm sorry, would have purchased a team before KG. It's surprising to me. You know, he just acted in that movie Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler.
So good.
Great job on his part. He was unbelievable in that role, playing himself. I did not see this coming. This is a very cool move for him, and I think that. So, Brandon, I know there's some new news now. There is another serious candidate to buy the Timberwolves, and that is the Wolf family, who run the Minnesota Vikings. If it's between those two, from a fan's perspective,
KG.
like KG, 10-year-old me would be screaming out his lungs for KG to own the Timberwolves. Think about how cool that is. David talked about how important he was to that franchise. He is the only guy to ever play for that franchise worth anything. For him to come back, he had his beef with Glenn Taylor, and then buy the team, that's a dream come true. And I think every single fan who's ever rooted for KG can respect that.
Right, guys. Remember, he in 2007 is the year that he fled to Boston. From 2007, now I'm not going to count KG at 39-40, okay? From 2007 to 2020, they have made the playoffs once. With KG from 97, the year they got Steph and they had Tom Gugliotta, all the way up to 2004, they made the playoffs every single year. So translate, that is 8 consecutive years in which they made the playoffs. The 6 years prior, they had never sniffed the postseason. So my point is that, by the way, Adam Silver, being a very player-friendly owner, needs to step in and needs to say, you know what, Ziggy Wolf, own your team in the NFL. Get them over the hump. How about you get them a Super Bowl and then come our way? But I'm going to give ownership to Kevin Garnett. The NBA, like you guys said, and by the way, what happened when he went to Boston his first year?
They won the championship.
There you go. So why would we be dubious to having Kevin Garnett as an owner? He understands what it's like to play the game. The guy played for 21 years. Every night he gave his heart, gave his soul, gave his spirit. This is a no-brainer. If you're Adam Silver, you have to make this happen.
One of my favorite debates growing up was who was a better power forward in their prime. Was it Kevin Garnett or was it Tim Duncan? Now, Tim Duncan obviously had the more successful career in regards to longevity and championships. But David and Brandon, in their prime, are you really going to tell me that prime Tim Duncan was better than prime Timberwolves Kevin Garnett?
No. I don't think so. I mean, and I think Tim Duncan deserves a lot of respect. They call him the big fundamental for a reason. But what I'm saying is if you drop KG on that Spurs team, he's just a more prolific player than Tim Duncan could be, I think. He has gifts that Tim Duncan doesn't have. So I think KG.
Brandon? I'm sorry, David?
Well, guys, I mean, listen, you guys are respectful guys. Fun guys, kind guys, you're dead wrong on this too. You would take Kevin Garnett over 2-time MVP, 3-time Finals MVP, should have been 5 Finals MVPs in my opinion. You're going to take Garnett over Tim Duncan, a guy who has the record for most All-NBA first teams, until LeBron obviously breaks it.
But here's what I'm saying. What can Tim Duncan do that Kevin Garnett physically could not also do?
So are we talking more exciting, or are you guys saying if you start a franchise, I'm going to take Kevin Garnett over Tim Duncan? Because those are 2 different questions.
That's actually a good point. Which way are you going?
Well, no. The point is it's not a debate. It's Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan has won you 5 NBA championships. Tim Duncan won you NBA championships with Tony Parker, who was never a top 5 point guard, and he won you a championship with Ginobili, who was going bald at the age of 21. Yeah, but you guys have the nerve to bring in Kevin Garnett and Tim Duncan in the same comparison?
I hear what you're saying, but those Spurs teams have more talent than I think you're giving them credit for. I mean, those three guys together were a talented bunch.
How'd Tony Parker do when he left San Antonio?
He left San Antonio and he could barely walk. He shouldn't have left San Antonio. He was done.
He's still 36 years old. It's not like he was. I mean, you know,
Jordan was 35, we're not all LeBron James. I mean, some people age different. His game just didn't hold up. He made a lot of his game in the paint with those contested layups. When you get older, I mean, that part of your game's gone.
So Tony Parker. Okay, so Brandon, Tony Parker was a top 5 point guard.
No, I did not say top 5.
So Tim Duncan won 5 NBA championships when David Robinson was in his last legs, older years. 99, he wasn't on his last legs, but you get the point. Robinson was not the same player anymore. He won without a top 5 point guard. Would you consider Manu Ginobili a top 5 shooting guard?
No.
Okay, so that Tim Duncan won with those two guys being Robin and then whatever analogy you want to use for player C.
Yeah, but you're talking about a team who is the model of team basketball, and at least since I've been alive. And you're saying that Tim Duncan solely almost carried them. The two can't exist together. They're one or the other.
He did carry him. Did you see him at 2? How old are you guys? Spencer, you're 27?
Yeah, I saw my fair share of Duncan, especially in 03 in that championship.
Thank you. Tell Brandon, please, the domination of Tim Duncan in that 2003 NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, the Nets ran into Shaq and Kobe in 02. You thought they'd have better luck against the Spurs. Tim Duncan comes in. He says, not so fast, and he absolutely destroys the Nets in that series. It's funny, Brandon, something that goes against your and I argument for Garnett. Duncan's best season was 25-12. Garnett's best season is 24-14 about. So their best, even in their prime, their stats are relatively the same. You add Duncan's longevity in the championships, it's really hard to take Garnett over Duncan. But when I think of Garnett on the Timberwolves, I just think of the best power forward in the game. Yes, Duncan was on his way to winning, I think, his second or third championship while Garnett was in his prime. But I think, Brandon, you're not doing that Spurs team enough service. They were extremely talented, the entire roster, that 03 year for Duncan. But Duncan's played with so many different teams. He is the one guy. He's been there in the early 2010s with Kawhi Leonard. He was there in the late 90s with David Robinson. He was there in the mid-2000s as well. So you have to give it to Duncan. But when I think of the best power forward of my generation, I think of prime Kevin Garnett. I can't think of anyone else.
Because he's more marketable. He's more charismatic. He's more must-see TV. He's got more fire. He's got more emotion. But there's no comparison, guys. There's no comparison. What did Kevin Garnett, if you're talking from a strictly skilled position, by the way, so you're looking at his stats right now, I guarantee you this. Duncan's career averages and rebounds are better. And remember something, both of you guys, too. Duncan's minutes were significantly diminished at 34 and on, so his stats actually should have been a lot better. But despite that, he's got more career blocks, he's got more career rebounds, he's got more career points. He probably has – Garnett might have him in steals. So in every single category, even though Duncan played less minutes per game, he was still the better player.
I think we wandered a little bit off the original question, though. I mean, because if you're talking career, I mean, few people stand up against Duncan career-wise. Like I'm on board there. We're talking prime of their career. Who's a bigger problem on the court? And they're both fantastic. I'm not hating on Duncan. I love Tim Duncan. Career-wise, he's had a spectacular career, but we're talking prime here.
I think at that point it's objective. If you're talking Garnett's 2 best years against Duncan's 2 best years, I just read you guys the stats. They're identical. The difference is Duncan has the hardware. Garnett does not.
Wait, guys. If you're talking statistical primes, I can understand where you're coming from, even though you're both wrong on that. I can understand where you're coming from, statistical primes. But you guys got to factor in playoffs, man. Like Kevin Garnett's prime, he got knocked out in the first round. And then the next year I thought he was better in 03. When he did win MVP in 04, they blew that series to the Lakers. The year before, the Spurs steamrolled LA, just absolutely demolished them in Game 6 in LA. And then we know what happened in the Western Conference Final. They made the Suns look like they were playing in the minor leagues, the NBDL, whatever you want to call it. Then they get to the NBA Finals. And no disrespect, and I thought the Nets should have had him in Game 6, by the way. But then they end up winning the 2003 championship.
Wow, what a debate. That Tim Duncan, Kevin, I'm telling you, David, you ask 50 kids my age, you're going to get a different answer. Maybe I think people above 30 respect Tim Duncan more than people below 30. I don't know why that is.
At risk of falling down the rabbit hole any further, we're going to keep talking basketball. Now we're talking, I guess, modern-day power forwards to a degree. So Bleacher Report listed their most talented rosters, and they just flat out got it wrong. They listed the Pelicans as the most talented roster in the bubble. Now, of course, the Pelicans have Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart. They have a talented roster, but they can't possibly be the most talented roster in Orlando, right, David?
Is it based on the most talented team in the state of Louisiana?
Even then, I heard LSU's team's pretty good.
That was a good one. Bleacher Report. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. Bleacher Report said that the Pelicans have the most talent in the NBA.
The most talented starting lineup in Orlando right now. That was Bleacher Report's pick.
The rounding out the top 5, it was Clippers number 2, Bucks number 3, Heat 4, Celtics 5. For some reason, they left out the Los Angeles Lakers. So I'm not sure what this list meant. Whether
Two
it
words.
was
2 words. You guys know what I'm going to say. It's 2 words. I'm disappointed because I have a lot of respect for Howard Beck and how Howard Beck works there. I don't know who made that list. I know it wasn't Howard Beck. That's such a slap in the face to the NBA that they would come out with that list. That the Pelicans have the most talented starting lineup. So Zion's played 20 games. He's been very good, but no way is Zion, right, a top 10 player right now. He's not a top 10 player. Drew Holiday has never made an All-NBA team. Lonzo Ball has not sniffed an All-Star game. Brandon Ingram was maybe the 20th best player in the NBA this season, and that's the most talented team? That's a joke. That's a joke.
They have the Lakers 11 and the 76ers 12th.
It's clickbait. That's all that is.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
Yeah, we're talking about a team who's not – they're entering this bubble outside the playoff picture. And they're supposed to be better than the 16 teams already in it. There's no shot.
Right.
Bleacher Report, you took a swing, you miss, post things that aren't clickbait. I'm with David. Give us something that we can read and say, oh, that's insightful, as opposed to where are the Lakers and freak out about it. I actually posted on Twitter. I said
something about Lakers. Yeah.
I wrote Bleacher Report. Guys, let's shake things up this week. Let's create a top 5 starting lineups in Orlando and not include the Lakers. People will go nuts. We are going nuts. Bleacher Report. And that's how it's done. That's what this post is.
Yeah. They're trying to incite a riot. But
Yeah. That's the operative word these days, huh?
True.
Not to make light of it.
No. But we'll go back to, I guess, something that we can talk about that we think that the teams that actually we should be excited about. So let's start in the East. We'll work West. David, what teams are you excited to see get into action in the bubble here?
Well, I don't know if you guys, Brent, I don't know if you follow me on Twitter. Obviously, Spencer, I know we follow each other. The thing I'm most excited about, honestly, is your team.
The Brooklyn Nets.
I'm fascinated to see what they can do. I'm fascinated because you're talking about a team. By the way, Beasley, is he done?
He's not there right now. He's done for the time being, yes.
No. I know that, but we're writing him off at this point?
I think we're going to write him off. I haven't seen any sort of optimistic news about him coming back to Orlando.
Okay. We're going to find out if we're going to truly find out how good the NBA is in Orlando. Because the notion is everybody in the NBA can play, right? That's the notion. And we've always said it's the old debate. Who's it used to be the Jaguars forever, right? Who's better, Alabama or Jacksonville, right? So we're gonna find out how good the NBA actually is in terms of talent in parity perspective. But the guy I'm most excited about, Jamal Crawford.
Yes.
Can't wait.
He's been penned up too long. The last time he played, he dropped 51.
Yeah.
And this is perfect for him. It's tournament style. The age doesn't matter. This is what he was born for.
Right.
I think like I said, I'm a Sixers fan, so I'm out in the East. I have to pay attention to the Nets. Unfortunately, I had to go through there last year. But I think they're going to be a better team than they're getting credit for. Washington's not touching them. Even with this ragtag group of starters, I don't think the Wizards can catch them. What do you think?
No way the Wizards catch him. The Wizards are playing without Bradley Beal and Davis Bertans, and they don't have John. There's no way they're going to catch the Nets. I spoke to Christian Winfield yesterday on Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick. He's a Nets insider. He works for New York Daily News. He told me, he goes, the Nets still have Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert was playing like a borderline superstar before the season was suspended in March. The Wizards do not have a Karis LeVert type player. Are the Nets going to stumble? Are they going to lose a few games out of the 8 games? Yeah, I think they're going to go 4-4, possibly 3-5, but they're going to hold on to that 8th seed. Definitely. Maybe they can get lucky and try to get the 7th seed. David, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm so excited to see what Jacques Vaughn does with this completely different roster than we saw in March.
Right. And I like Jacques. He was in Orlando. I like him, man. He's got an even speaking of Spurs, he was on the Spurs, right?
He was on the Nets too.
That's right. I'm fascinated to see. I'm always blown away and amazed at the guys who are the Tom Brady's or the Vince Carters, and to kind of push the limits in terms of what the human body can do. And the last thing I'll say about this in terms of the question, Brandon, the thing that I'm most fascinated about is, let me quiz you guys very quickly. Who was the 15th overall pick in 2011?
Off the top of my head, I have no idea.
Okay, Kawhi Leonard.
That's a good one.
Now who was the 15th overall pick in the 2013 draft?
13. That wasn't LeVert, was it?
No.
You
guys have heard of this guy, I'm positive.
I'm not good with draft numbers. You gotta. Who was it?
Yeah.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. So what that means is 14 different general managers chose players before they chose Kawhi Leonard, and 14 general managers chose 14 guys instead of Giannis.
Yeah, Phil Jackson didn't even show up to Giannis's tryout.
Right, and listen, and you can't tell me, well, Giannis didn't show what he's showing now. You know what? They picked Anthony Bennett on potential. Okay, they picked Eddie Curry on potential. Right, so I don't want to hear that argument. But here's the point: every GM is going to get this one wrong about Jamal Crawford. It always fascinates me. It always fascinates me that, see, you weren't expecting this, Brandon. I'm going off the rails because that's how my mind operates. You guys, come on now. Virginia Tech was the only school that gave Steph Curry a scholarship. Out of all those Division I schools, all of them got it wrong. And Steph turned out to be one of the 15 greatest players in the history of basketball. It amazes me how wrong some of these GMs are.
All right.
He's dead on.
He's dead on. You mentioned Giannis Antetokounmpo. He was the MVP last year. Let's get into who you think are going to take home some of these NBA regular season awards. So let's start with the MVP. Is Giannis going to go back-to-back, or is someone else going to win the award?
Back-to-back.
Okay. Brandon, what do you think? You agree?
He's done nothing to lose it.
The only guy I would put there is LeBron, but you can't give it to LeBron because of how sensational Anthony Davis has been this year. And I think Giannis on a nightly basis is asked to do slightly more than LeBron James does. And he's outperformed James this year, but James is if Giannis is 1A, I think James is 1B.
Yeah.
All right, David, who is your rookie of the year?
That's a good one. And, well, Zion's the best player, but just because of consistency, it would set a bad precedent if you gave him Rookie of the Year and he plays 1/3 of the season. So you got to go with Ja in Memphis.
Ja's been phenomenal this year. He's been fun to watch. I think out of those 4 teams that are fighting for that 8th playoff seed, so it's the Trailblazers, it's the Grizzlies, it's the Pelicans, and there's one other team that's pretty close.
The Kings.
I think it's the Kings.
Yeah, they're out there.
The Suns and the Spurs are also there, but I'm not gonna pay any attention to them.
I can't believe the Suns are there.
Yeah, I am most excited to watch Ja out of all those guys. I mean, Zion's not playing right now; he's home due to personal family emergency. But even with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, I'm not going to say that Ja's better than Dame or CJ, but I'm more excited to watch Ja play in Orlando. He has been – I think he's a runaway for the Rookie of the Year.
I think he deserves to be. People are talking about Zion just because of the hype and because he was what we thought he was when he got on the court.
Well said.
But John Morant was better than anyone thought he was going to be, and he kept it going the whole season. Once you started being able to game plan for him and having tape, it didn't matter. He was still able to do those things when you saw it coming.
Yeah.
Who do we like for most improved player?
That's a good one. I would, obviously with the winning, if you're factoring winning, I would even go with someone like Chris Middleton, to be honest with you. But this is going to be a curveball. I would go with Devontae Graham for the Hornets, what he's been able to do.
I really like that pick. The only issue I would have with that is they've been so bad.
Correct.
And they weren't invited to Orlando. So it's tough for me to go that route. I saw Jason Tatum's name was in there.
He's doing the Dez.
He's doing the Dez. I saw Tatum's name was in there. I don't think you can give it to him. I think everyone knows how good he is. What about Brandon Ingram?
That's a good one. I like that. I don't know if he got much better. I just think he had a better opportunity in terms of having the ball in his hands.
Pascal
right.
Siakam's got to be in there too, with Toronto living up there.
You
want to talk about winning? I mean, he took the ropes from an elite, all-time great player, and he kept them right where they were at last year.
All right, defensive player of the year. Are we on agreement it's Rudy Gobert or is it someone else?
Giannis, man.
You'd give it to Giannis. Okay.
Yeah.
Sir Benjamin Simmons.
Huh.
That's a Philly guy answer. All right.
Look at the numbers; they're there.
Well, you know what it is Simmons doesn't take a shot, so he's got so much energy to play on the defensive end.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I don't know. I guess overcompensate somewhere.
Listen. The guy's the number 1 overall pick. He's been in the league for 4 years. You can't take a jump shot at this point.
The thing is, that's the thing. He can. He doesn't. I can't figure it out.
It's psychological. It's like, so I don't understand I love Brett Brown. He's a great guy. It's a whole nother topic. But you got to get the guy in the gym. You got to say, I don't care if you go 0 for 10, because at some point you're going to go 2 for 10, then 3 for 10, then 4 for 10. If he could shoot the basketball, you're talking about a second or third or maybe even number 1 best player in the world. That's how good this guy can be.
Oh yeah. I'm of the belief if Brett Brown gets fired, that is on Ben Simmons' shoulders to a degree, because the team's there. He's holding them back by not shooting.
Yeah, and Horford got old fast. I love Al Horford, but he looks old right now.
I always find it funny that Philadelphia drafted a player that couldn't shoot a three-pointer, and they drafted a player that forgot how to play basketball in Markelle Fultz for a year. So that's tough on that franchise. Moving forward, David, who is your 6th man of the year?
I got to give it to Lou again. Just out of sheer admiration for him.
Lou Willville, sweet. I miss him desperately in Philadelphia, man. That dude can ball.
Yeah. I would actually go with Lou Williams' teammate Montrezl Harrell. I think he's been phenomenal this year. I think both those guys, whoever wins, kudos to them. The Clippers have one of the deepest rosters in the NBA.
Right. They should call that the Lou Williams 6th Man of the Year award.
They should.
One day.
Who is your coach of the year?
That's a really good one. Should we say Atkinson?
That would be incredible if you won that.
You know what? I give it to Mike Miller for making the Knicks look even close to average.
I think the top 2 guys would be Budenholzer for what he's done in Milwaukee, and then Nick Nurse. What Nick Nurse has done in Toronto has been amazing without Kawhi Leonard. So I personally would give it a Nurse. I think you don't have to give it a Budenholzer. If you're going to give Giannis the MVP, give the coach of the year to Nick Nurse. That's
fair. I mean, that whole organization, like we're seeing right now how you build a successful organization where you can pull an all-time talent and they miss a beat, but they don't fall apart.
Well, guys, we're going to see the playoffs, though. Because you can win 60 games, 55 games in the regular season, but the playoffs, everyone puts their big boy pants on. That's where it's going to show its ugly colors.
I think
because we know what Kyle Lowry was before Kawhi Leonard. We know what he was. He was a guy that was very inconsistent. He's a great guy, potential Hall of Famer, but it's going to be a different. Let's see what Siakam does as the number 1 guy.
I think he can handle it. Kawhi puts on that responsibility on him last year. I mean, there were series where people would focus on Kawhi and then have no answer for Siakam. So he's had to carry a little bit of a load before.
All right. We now come to the part of the podcast I like to call a Morris Brothers fun fact. The Morris brothers have played on 28% of teams in the NBA. Marcus has played on 6 teams: Houston, Phoenix, Detroit, Boston, New York, and the Clippers. Markieff has played on 5 teams: Phoenix, Washington, the Thunder, the Pistons, and the Lakers. That's 9 out of 32 possible teams for the Morris brothers. What are your thoughts, guys? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. They know a lot of people.
Who's the better Morris brother? Is it Marcus or Markieff?
Marcus.
Yeah, it's Marcus.
All right. And which Morris brother is on the better Los Angeles team?
Marcus.
Yeah.
That's the Clippers or the Lakers?
Lakers.
Oh, you think the Lakers are better than the Clippers?
They are.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
are.
All right.
The Clippers,
Top-end talent.
Yeah. The Lakers are. The record shows it. We don't know what the Clippers are yet because we haven't seen enough continuity with the team this year. Paul George, he's been hurt. Kawhi Leonard is going to be Kawhi in the regular season in terms of his duration and the amount of games he plays. So we don't know what we are with the Clippers. We know what the Lakers are.
All right. Fair enough. We're going to conclude the episode with our rapid fire. David, I'm going to ask you 10 questions as quick as you can. Give me an answer. You know how it works. Are you ready?
I'm all ready.
All right. Favorite NBA team of all time?
73 Knicks.
Favorite player of all time?
Kobe being Bryant.
Favorite moment all time watching basketball?
Kobe's 81 or Kobe going for 60 on 44% shooting and beating the Jazz and scoring the Lakers, it seemed like last 30 points.
Favorite moment in The Last Dance?
Honestly, I'm sorry, but my admiration, love for this guy is so strong. The end of the episode, and they dedicated it to Kobe.
I thought that was awesome too. I don't want to take a break in the rapid fire, but that was incredible. You're absolutely right. Who is the most famous person you've ever met?
That's a good one. I'd say Kareem probably.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What? You had to think about that?
Who
I met Dan Marino. You know what? No, I take it back. I mean, I met the Kardashians. If we're talking fame, I've met the Kardashians before.
All of them?
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm actually, this isn't a lie, I'm sort of friendly with Brody Jenner. Does that count? Is he a Kardashian?
Sure.
Okay, let's go.
Sure. We'll go with it.
Who is the best player in basketball right now when healthy?
Giannis.
Wow. Okay. Will the Golden State Warriors win another ring with Steph and Clay?
Is Clay getting married?
Oh, no.
Thank you. Brandon got it. Thank you.
Oh.
They're not. You said win a ring. I'm trying to specify.
Will the Nets win a ring with KD and
Again, are Kyrie and KD getting married? With the Nets, you know the answer to that. No. Kyrie only wins with LeBron, and KD wins if he has the second best player and 8th best player in the NBA. Sorry, by the way. I know I'm hating on your team, so I don't mean to come too hard.
That was just a knife to the chest just now. You just destroying the Brooklyn Nets in like 3 sentences. Thank you a lot.
Sure.
Name a team that nobody treats as a real championship threat, but that can surprise folks in the next few years and actually win one.
See, these are really good questions. I want to give it more thought than just rapid fire. I would say the Celtics. No one has them win the championship, but man, there are some bad boys on that team.
If Michael Jordan plays in this era, how many is he averaging a night, and is he just as dominant?
He's probably averaging 15 points a night.
Wow.
You guys are supposed to ask why he's averaging 15 points a night.
Why is he averaging 50 points a night?
Thank you, because he's 57 years old.
Oh, okay. If he played in his prime in this era, does he dominate?
He's averaging 57 points.
7 points. There you go. And that does it for Rapid Fire. And that does it for this week's episode. David, we thank you so much for coming on The Last Resort, man. It was a pleasure having you. Again, you can follow David on Twitter at @theGoodShepherd_ David Shepard. Any final words for our listeners?
No, man, just want to say, Spencer, Brandon, you guys do a great job. Continue to do what you're doing. Respect the show, and thank you for having me. Really had a lot of fun.
Thanks
for the kind words, David. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me again. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
That'll do it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.